Hey guys, welcome to Financially Incorrect, a podcast sponsored by FX Pesa, where we're going to have a cheeky take on serious financial topics, have amazing guests from different sectors and different industries. But our first guest for the podcast today is Biko Adema. For a long time, he was the darling of rugby in Kenya. He went to the Olympics one time, played at 2 Commonwealth tournaments, played at 2 Rugby Sevens World Cup tournaments. And so welcome, Biko.
Cheers, Barack. Thanks for having me here. I'm honored.
Yeah, to be the first guest. To be on corner. Yeah, so this is Financially Incorrect.
Yes.
So I first met Biko probably, I want to say like 12, 13 years ago. Yeah,
I must have already been that long.
Yeah, I must have been like 18 when I met Biko, and at that time he was like a demigod in the rugby world at the time, at least for me. With the legend at St. Mary's, and I think at the time you were playing for both 7s and 15s.
Okay,
so that's probably 2010. 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
I
was playing for both teams then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll start with just a basic background, just to get your background into rugby and how you got into the sport and how it started. So maybe you can start with St. Mary's.
St. Mary's. Well, that's where my rugby journey started.
Yeah.
I started playing when I was in class 6. For the junior team. I learned the game. My brother was always telling me about the sport of rugby before I joined St. Mary's. So I joined in standard 5. So I was very intrigued, very curious. So when I got to Saints and I started playing it in class 6, I guess I got, the love started to grow from then.
Yeah.
I was generally very sporty as a kid. So I played football as well, a lot of football as well. And any other sports, indoor games, a bit of basketball here and there. But so after primary, I joined the high school team when I was only in Form 1. I was playing for the first team, and when I was in Form 4, I was captaining the team. But already when I was in 4th form, I got a call up to play for the Kenya under 18s. And I guess that's when I started playing for the country.
So how difficult was it for a first former to be playing for the senior team in St. Mary's at the time? Because at this time, St. Mary's was like... it's not what it is now.
True. Definitely wasn't easy. My brother at that time, when I was in class 7, 8, my brother was now finishing IB 2. And at that time, the captain of the St. Mary's team was John Alan Namu. So they were in the same year with my brother. And yes, I would say that because I had a big bro in IB2, I had a good amount of senior players just around me, who were encouraging me, always kept on like pushing me. So I think I had a good amount of older players who were just had my back, so to say. So they pushed me. Obviously, it was difficult at training with them, but because they always made it seem like they were taking care of me, I felt like let me just push on. They really took care of me, and I obviously just proved myself every now and then. Every opportunity I got, I just proved myself.
So you get your first call up when before your KCSE exams, right? Before your Form 4.
To the senior
national
team. Yes, in Form 4. Yes.
What was that like? And making the decision to go and play for Kenya before,
That was weird actually, because like you just said, I was preparing for the KCSE exams. And that was now the main focus. We were done with the high school games. But then my folks got a call from the rugby union, and they were like, I would like your son to join the Kenya 15s on a trip to SA to play a franchise team there. So for me, I was like very shocked. My folks also were very surprised. But obviously, I'd played for the Kenya under 18. So I'd already had that experience of going abroad and playing for the national team. I thought maybe they would have a bit of an issue with that, as in my folks, with me traveling and my exams are just around the corner. But they were like, nah, you go as long as you prepare yourself well and you come back, and because the trip wasn't that long, maybe just a weekend. And my folks had always been supporting me throughout my rugby journey. So yes, they allowed me to go. I was obviously a high schooler on that trip. Again, the guys on the Kenya team, obviously, being a young guy in the team, you'd think that they'd be bullying me a lot on that tour, but no. I guess because I was still in high school, and they saw that there was no need for them to do that.
So you didn't get hazed at all on that trip?
They really supported me and took care of me again. I think if I was a young guy joining the team who was obviously out of high school, it would have been very different then. But obviously I had to go through the rituals here and there, the normal rugby rituals where you have to do a few things here and there, sing a few songs in Luya and
okay,
the normal stuff.
So of course, because we're here to discuss money at the end of the day, so let me ask you, when was your first, I guess as you sit now, when was your first conscious understanding of money and your relationship with money?
Good question. I mean, I think, so for me, when I got the call up to the under 18 team, for example, it wasn't, we knew that we're not going to get paid. When you're playing for the Kenyan under 18 team and you're playing for your country, you're not going to, in your minds, you're not thinking that you're going to get paid. Although we had heard from the previous teams that you might get a small allowance on tour just to buy a few things here and there. And that was it. So, yes, once I knew that there was a bit of an allowance, and then I was captaining the team, and my teammates are obviously pushing me to make sure that we do get this allowance. Because, when it comes to such teams, money that is designated to the players sometimes can just disappear. So yes, we did get our allowances on those tours. It was very little, maybe just to do a bit of shopping just here and there to get some
so this is at under 18
level. Yes.
So what are we talking about, like 10,000, 20,000?
No, maybe even less, man. Maybe probably between 5 to 10k. Around there. But that is, and obviously on tour, actually, to come to think about it, yes, on tour, we're paid about $50 maybe, and that was to cover the whole week. So this $50 is like your per diem for playing for the national team. And this was at under 18 level. Yes, under 18 so now level. When you got the call up to the senior team, did that per diem change? Did the money change? It changed, but not by too much. Definitely at the senior level, when I now played for the Kenya 15s, and it didn't change much. Okay, now there we had more regular weekly pays, allowances again, like they called them. So per session we had a certain amount of pay at that time.
And maybe let me bring you back before, I guess further down your career. This is like just that first initial trip to South Africa.
Yes.
Was there an allowance for that trip, or were you guys paid for that specific trip?
Yes, I think there was an allowance for that trip as well. I'm not sure again about how much exact figure. But yes, it was probably just maybe $100. I think, or even less, because we were there only for a short time.
For like a weekend, you said. And so at this point in time, do you make a conscious decision to then pursue rugby as a...
So for me, sport? Now when I made the decision, when I was in primary school, I made and started playing the game, I made a decision that I want to play for the national team. It was always a dream for me to play for the national team. That's all I wanted, just to put on the Kenya jersey and represent the country. And that was when I was in primary. So at that time, I had not even really thought about the money aspect of it. I felt that, I hoped that money would come. It would make its way because we're playing for the national team. You know. But you know, at that age. And then when I got to the national team now in my senior years, I realized that there was a bit of it was more than just waiting for it. There was, you know, you had to actually obviously kind of fight for it. You know, and push the management to actually sort things out for you guys. Because when I made like for my first call up to the national sevens team, which was another big dream of mine, I remember again I was just eager also to get
on the squad,
onto the squad and to get the gear and to go on tour. And then obviously I knew now from my previous experience playing with the under 18 and going for the trip to South Africa that yes, we might get some pay, but I was not I didn't think it was gonna be much again. Okay.
So through your rugby career, so to speak, there was no point where you made like a conscious decision to be like, I'm going to pursue this professionally, and you know the money is gonna be worth it and all of that.
Okay. Well, so now when I joined the Kenya Sevens and I was now touring, I was more of a regular player. That's when I said, okay, yes, I can see that my talent is being recognized, and I'm a consistent player on the team. So I thought, I mean, in the back of my head, I had hope that we will take this team to greater heights. And because we heard now that sponsorship was coming in, like KQ and Virgin Atlantic came in at first, and then, you know, actually when I joined the team, it was Tusker. So Tusker was sponsoring, and yes, they were paying players. Again, these were not such big amounts, right? I remember when I started playing with the Kenya Sevens team, maybe I would get a monthly pay of around 20 something G's or just around 30 G's, something like that. But then the sponsorship improved. Then we got into guys like Virgin Atlantic coming to sponsor us, and they came in with more money, and the amount of money they were getting kept on improving. And then KQ came on board, so that amount that each player was getting was a big amount. So once I saw that, hey, I can actually make money doing what I love, and it seemed like, why not? I'm still young. I can still play this game at, you know, the level I would like to play it at. I'm going for tours around the world. I'm seeing different places. I'm able to shop outside the country. You know, I mean, those are
So and to give some context, this would be what, early 2000s, mid 2000s?
So this was let's say because I started playing for the Kenya Sevens in 2007. So yes. 2007 onwards.
So this is probably what, 2010, 2011?
2008, 9, 10. Now when things began to become much better for the rugby player. As long as you're in the Kenya Sevens. So everyone wanted to play for the Kenya Sevens team, because we knew that the Kenya 15s generally was not really where the money was. If you were chasing money, and also where the tours were, and you know the experience was. So because the Kenya 15 still wasn't touring so much around the world, and the rank in 15s obviously was not the best, and obviously 15s again is a more technical game, so it requires much more. So yes, the Kenya Union put more emphasis on the Kenya Sevens, and it made it seem like that was
the place to be.
Players would want to be.
So at that time, what are you doing with your money? Like you're saying, you're a young man, you're touring, so what are you doing with your money at that time?
Okay, so at that time also I'm in school, I'm in uni. So I was juggling between uni and the Kenya Sevens team. So I was at Daystar University, and I was pursuing a degree in management information systems. So luckily the uni was giving me time off when I needed to go on trips, right? The money I was getting, I was using it a bit to pay for to support my parents with some of my school fees at some point. And then also I think I was just shopping for certain things. I would go on tour, and funnily enough, I would buy certain things that I would use in the future.
Yeah.
I bought pieces of art. I bought what else? A lot of art pieces actually. A few devices here and there. I would buy like TVs and home theaters, gadgets. But also back home, I was having some savings account as well. You see, so that is what I was doing with my money.
Yeah.
I was also investing my money in the stock market.
Yeah.
I also bought some land. You see, so I was trying to spread my money across in different places.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I have it secure.
Yeah.
Just in my mind, that was me planning myself
at that time.
At that time, yeah.
Okay, I want to talk a bit about I guess just the general rugby scene, because I know there's club and country, right? And so I want to talk about the money at club and country, between playing for the clubs and the country level, and like how much money quote unquote the average rugby player would be generating or making at club level vis-a-vis country level.
So in Kenya, it depends on which club you're playing for. Clubs generally have improved in terms of taking care of their player welfare and paying them something. But when I joined, the teams pretty much weren't paying their players. You'd only hear about maybe KCB paying their players something, and that was it. Other clubs like my club that I went to, or I'm still affiliated to, Nondis, would probably give us again some allowance, like transport allowance as they call it, but those are just a few hundred shillings. So it wasn't much. It improved at some point, but the good thing is some clubs definitely were taking care of people's insurance. You see, clubs are also offering guys who had graduated from unis positions in, maybe get guys linked up with certain companies to set up players with jobs. So those are the things that gave players hope that, you know, even after playing rugby, I could still pursue something. And while I'm studying, I could still try and make sure that I'm, you know, aligning myself to a certain job or connection that I'm going to hopefully get. But most clubs were not paying as such. These days, it is a bit better from what I understand or what I hear. And, you know, also the uni teams also entice players to come through to play for them, like Strathmore. I think they give guys good scholarships. And they're able to rope in very good young players. And those young players now, after playing for Strathmore, they go into the different clubs. Depending on which club they would like to play for. Again, you have teams like KCB who came out of nowhere. And then, you know, right now they are the biggest club in Kenya, you know, in terms of them and KCB. I mean, sorry, Kabras, not KCB, Kabras. Kabras now, a team in Western, and you see, like, most of the very good players are also playing in Kabras. It's because they came with a different structure. They came and offered jobs to players, and they were paying them on a regular basis. So they made it seem like the sport now was heading towards some semi-pro kind of league.
But so essentially you're saying that the financial outlets for I guess a rugby player would either be you play for the Kenya Sevens, either you try and make it to the Kenya Sevens team, or if you're playing at club level, the club's sponsors then offer you a possible position or a job where you're working. And then if for those people who are playing for university teams, via scholarships to pursue whatever degrees they're pursuing. But ultimately, would it then be a fair assumption to say a lot of the rugby then that's played is purely from passion, and there's not too many financial
and
incentives?
That side has been in this country for quite some time. Even the old school guys, the old guards will tell you they did it all out of passion. You know, and but many of them also ensured that they were going to school and made sure they got into professional jobs, because many of those older senior players who are no longer playing, the veterans as they say, got positions in different companies here and there. I guess also rugby taught them about teamwork, and because there's very many values you get from playing rugby. Yeah, we can talk about those another time. But yes, I'm sure that many of these rugby players from these different clubs back in the day got into positions where they could also help the younger generation coming through. And some of them tried. But at this point in time, yes, I feel like many young players think that they are entitled to get paid by clubs. Because many players would go into clubs saying, hey, so what am I getting offered in that club? And which is not a bad thing also, because I mean, sports should go that way. Players should be able to be drafted here and there, switch clubs depending on who would like them. But back in the day, it was mainly out of passion.
Okay. So because you've talked about jobs, so did you also work another job? When I was in while I was in uni, I also I had to do my internship. So I got into working with DHL for some time. And then after finishing that, definitely I finished my uni course, and I did work at the Canadian High Commission for a bit of time. And I was doing like a short contract thing. So I was there for about 12 months or even less. But at that time, I was still playing for the national team. So for me, that time now, I was getting paid at the High Commission. And I was getting paid by Kenya Sevens. And now this is when Kenya Sevens had actually now, we are taking the world by storm this time, at this point. Because we were climbing up the ranks. We had gotten better sponsorship deals. So everything seemed like it was falling into place. And yes, so for me, I mean, I had two sources of income at that point. So I could say at that time, things were very good. If you were working, plus playing for the Kenya Sevens, and you'd get time to go on tour from your employees because they're happy to have somebody who is representing the country. And you'd also be respected by the Kenya Sevens. When you need to go to work, they would give you that time to go to work. So you'd have a good understanding. And if you're in such a position as a player, then you are doing okay. You're doing okay. So let me ask a few practical questions. So like, when do you buy your first car, for example?
Okay. So my first car that I bought personally, my story was this different. My folks at some point had bought a car. Then I took it off them, kind of bought it off them. Because now they changed the logbook to my name, and then now it was my turn to now like take care of that car and just do everything in regards to servicing, and everything was up to me. So I sort of took over that responsibility. Then I sold that car, and I finally bought my first car, I think in 2014 thereabouts. And I think at that point it felt good to buy my own car. And
that's how you get your first car. Then you talked about the piece of land that you invested in. So like at what point or how long did you have to play for Kenya Sevens and work the job that you're working to be able to amass enough income to be able to make those purchases and those investments? So maybe I'll say this. So when so after playing for the Kenya Sevens for some time, obviously there are times we go for different kinds of tournaments. And you mentioned it in the beginning, like the Commonwealth, Olympics and such things. So those kind of tournaments bring in the government. So when the government is involved, there is more incentive. So I remember when we were going for the Commonwealth, for example, I would get an incentive from the government,
and they'll give us like a bonus, you know, pay, or even when we did well on some tours, we'd get some bonus pays. Depending on how well we've done in a tournament, sometimes even the president would call us in, and you know, so there were those kind of government allowances or pays that topped up our
your general pay.
Yeah. So with those kind of things, obviously I was able to have a bit more money. I was able to save more. I was able to buy more stocks, for example. I was able to buy the piece of land that you're talking about. And that was after obviously getting some advice from family and friends on how to manage my money a bit better. So then I was able to make those decisions. And I obviously knew since the beginning, since the time I joined the Kenya Sevens, I knew that one has to have, the good thing is that we were always told that one has to have a B plan. So my B plan obviously was that I went to uni. And I knew that there will come a time when rugby will end and I'll have to just go into the world and work, or you know, find something else to do. And obviously I also knew that I needed to make certain investment plans going forward, because I had the right advice around me, be it family, friends, senior players who have been there. Sometimes even the rugby union would organize professionals to come and speak with us about money management, which is a good thing, and I think it should still happen even today. To a greater extent. If the young players can be told, hey, we need to, you guys, these are options available. How can we help you guys consolidate and save, and you know, and make the right decisions with your money. I think those are the things that helped me.
Amass enough income to make the investments.
To make those certain investments.
So, and when we're talking about these government bonuses, without giving specific figures, and are we talking about like between 200 to 500,000, 500 to 1 million? Is it over 1 million? Like what kind of again, just like with the ranges, what kind of
they could range between anything between 200,000 to an M at some point, or just below an M,
depending on the tournament,
depending on how well guys did,
so that now would include like a bonus,
we were in the World Series, you know, and also how well the management would push.
I see.
For us, you see, because there were some managements that really pushed for us, and for us to be taking,
get some decent money,
decent pay, and there were some seasons that did much better in terms of that player welfare, taking care of the players than others, even those that came after. So you see, the management really played a big part.
So in your, I guess, estimation and lived experience as a rugby player, how much would you say an average rugby player would be hoping to make in a financial year, January to December? If you're playing for Kenya Sevens, I guess you have an average season. You're playing for your club, and we can do two scenarios. We can do a scenario where you're working up a second job, and one where you're just purely playing and focusing on rugby.
Okay. If you're just focusing on rugby, I mean, I don't really know the
rates right now.
The rates in the Kenya Sevens right now, and the kind of tiers they have. At some point, we also had tiers. So depending on what tier you are, if you're a senior player, you are the top tier, and maybe there are a few of you who are at that. So you'd be a senior player depending on how long you've been in the team, how many tournaments you've played,
and they would earn more.
Earn more. That's depending if they're still using that system. Then you'd have a middle tier, and then you'd have the lower tier or the junior tier. So most players would fall under either the senior tier or the middle tier would have the most players. The senior tier would have the core of the team.
Yeah.
And then the junior players, again, a few of them.
Yeah.
On average, okay, let's say a sock. If they were to get 100,000
a month
per month.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be
about 1.2 million in a year.
So if they were to get 100,000,
yeah.
I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah.
Could be slightly above again if they have if they're in the tier system.
Yeah.
Or it could be also a bit below also.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't want to
like
give wrong figures and then the current team will be like, yo, what's up with this guy? Man? Why is he?
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Talking this way about. Anyway, but yes, I think that is a good estimate.
And I guess maybe to draw comparison to international athletes who are successful, you know, a lot of them draw revenue from the primary sport that they're playing, but then generate a lot of revenues from sponsorships, and you know, whether it's Nike, whether it's like other multiple brands that they're supporting. Has that broken through in Kenya? Where
in rugby, I don't think so. It's unfortunate. It has only happened to the runners, like guys like Kipchoge. Yeah, those are the guys who are reaping the rewards from such sponsorship. But and even Umanyala, I see him wearing also a lot of Adidas off the track, even on the track. I think Adidas are doing something with him, from what I've seen. But in rugby, I doubt there's anyone who has gotten a big brand like that to sponsor them. Then again, also around the world, I don't know if those brands are really on rugby as such. But yes, in Kenya, we have not gotten top brands, sports brands sponsoring a player or endorsing a player. However, players have gotten endorsements through local companies or even international companies, just to do a stint, or you know, to advertise something, to be on billboards. You know, so that
you were on a couple of billboards.
I did an advert for Prestige Margarine when I was quite young, actually. When I was still in my early years of playing, maybe when I was 23 or thereabouts. And then I did something with Safaricom at some point. I've worked with other brands here and there. So I think, yes, there is an opportunity for these brands to work with these players. And some of them have. But the player also needs to package himself to be identified by these brands. And the brands should also see that there's also an opportunity for them to be seen if they sponsor this player, and also also to give back, I guess, to the local sportsman. Right?
Okay, so so it's not happened for a majority of.
It doesn't happen for a number of players. No.
So you can go through your career without.
You can be relying on your pay from the team. And just go through it like that. However, I think as a player in today's age, there is more opportunity for you to put some value on your name. And there are more channels for you to actually put yourself out there. Just thinking about social media, and, you know, the internet. I mean, these days it's much easier for people to sell themselves. That's why we see influencers rising, you know, on all sorts of platforms. So if players could also package themselves like that, and I think in Kenya, maybe it has been looked at as, I don't know, because like in the States it's different. In South Africa even, players are being really endorsed by different brands. But like I say, here in Kenya, I think the player needs to take ownership of that, him or herself, and really push for it, because brands are being made are coming up out of nowhere. Even, you know, whatever brands out there, you have the Ugali man, for example. You know, people are making brands out of themselves, springing out of nowhere. So if a player has already a platform, being an athlete, then that is something they should leverage on. And in today's world, I think there's possibility for them to generate something
revenue from there. So you're saying that even after the Kenya Sevens, after you guys won the Singapore series, or I believe you were, was it fourth at the World Cup? Is it fourth?
We were once fourth.
When you were once fourth,
yes.
Even with those milestones that you guys were hitting, when you came back into the country with all of the hype and all of that, that there wasn't, it didn't really convert into financial return in the brand sense of things, of people sponsoring.
Well, it did. Like you see, like we said earlier, some players were approached every now and then to do certain gigs for different brands. I was fortunate to do a couple of gigs as well with different brands, always reaching out to me. And a number of other players as well. At that time, when the hype was really there and the team had done so well, and but there were those players who did not get that kind of feedback from different brands. And
so weren't able to make that money.
Yes.
So then what's then the, I guess if you're looking at younger potential rugby players who are looking and want to get into this space and want to turn this into a profession, is it really viable financially, in terms of saying that you want to be able to meet your needs, you want to be able to pay your rent, you want to be able to drive a nice car, take care of a family? Is it a viable career, financially speaking?
So it depends on your lifestyle also, right? But yes, if you, it can to some extent, and if you plan yourself well, and like we say, you use the things around you, like manage your money well, get advice where you can get it from different sources, weigh the different advice you get. Also use platforms around you, like we've just talked about those platforms, online platforms. Use those to leverage your name. Get people who will assist you, managers, people who will manage and help you, look for such opportunities. Then you are in a position to do quite well and to manage your life and pay for your bills, save up to buy a car. You should be able to. And hopefully now things have even changed. Maybe now even the like the average we were talking about payment, maybe it's even higher than what I mentioned, so I think there's a possibility. People can actually make something out of it, make a living, and obviously build from there. These days also there's the opportunity for a player to get called to play in another country. I think because the Kenya brand, the Kenya name has grown so much. People know Kenya. Now, when it comes to rugby, people know that Kenya is a big force. It has been. So if players can also make those connections when they go on tour, because those people who are watching them play in those tournaments, there are scouts every now and then. We've seen players who are now playing in France, maybe in the UK, even in the US. Take those opportunities. These guys need to take those opportunities because they don't come easily. And back in the day, it was even harder for a player to be called up to play in another club. Out there. So,
did you ever want to play out there?
I did. I did want to play out there, but I guess a big part of me was also saying that I don't want to leave home, and I would like to also settle and find a career here in Kenya. But there was a point when I was really looking to play outside, and that was because my back was on the wall. I was at a point where I was looking for a job, and I was really looking for any option for me to get some pay, because now my life in the Kenya Sevens now had started ending. So I was now trying to see what other options I have. Either I go to play at a club outside or just look for different opportunities outside there.
So actually, what has your transition been like since post Kenya Sevens?
Yeah. So my transition has gone like this. While I was playing, I happened to also join the Banda school, and I started working at the Banda school while still playing as a coach, because for a long time I wanted to also get into coaching after rugby, playing rugby. I wanted to get into coaching and maybe one day even coach the national team. It's still a dream. Maybe it'll happen. But yes, so I got into coaching and I was working now as a PE teacher at the school. I was trained on how to teach other sports, not only rugby. And while working there, I got the opportunity from that school, the Banda school. They sponsored me to do a international teaching course with Nottingham University. So who was I not to take that opportunity? And in the past, I felt like I gave up some opportunities. So this time I was like, no, this opportunity, I have it here right in front of me. They're paying for me. Why not? So I did the course. And because it was going to help me with my teaching and my coaching of kids, I said, yeah, it's right up my alley. So I did the thing. It was 1 year of training. And then I happened to leave the Banda school shortly after doing that course. And that is when now I was busy looking for another job.
Right.
And because I was still playing, not for the Kenya Sevens at that time, but for the Kenya 15s. But I just left the Kenya Sevens not too long ago. So I was still quite actively playing. So I was looking for opportunities also outside, in the US, in Germany, I think also in the UK. Yeah, so, but then, fortunately enough, I got a job opportunity here in Kenya again, where in a school where I'm now at the Braeburn School. And I'm now working there as a teacher. So I'm more of a class teacher this time, not only on the pitch. So I'm doing class teaching because the course I did, which
allowed you to be able to.
Yes. So now, yes, it was a teaching course. So it allowed me also to get into the classroom and work as a classroom teacher, which I'm doing. But I'm still also very much involved in the sports in the school as well. So I'm doubling up as a class teacher and a sports teacher. So things are going good.
Yeah, okay, so that was the transition out of Kenya Sevens. Maybe let me ask you, through your Kenya Sevens career, what financial decision do you regret making? What's your biggest regret financially? Whether it was investment, whether it was a purchase,
I don't think I have a regret as such. I think for me, most of my financial decisions have been fine. Maybe I might have lost some cash here and there, but I always thought, to me, I look at it as a lesson. Yeah, not really as a regret. So it was a lesson learned. Maybe one time I purchased something that I shouldn't have purchased, or I made a wrong decision, or I lent some people money and they disappeared. Those kinds
of
things.
So what then would be the biggest lesson, I guess, that you then
I think the biggest lesson would be just go through the experience, I think. Get advice from people around you, especially those people who you see that you look up to, and you see that they are doing well or are in a better financial state than you. Ask questions. I'm one of those guys who asks questions, and I really try to do my due diligence before investing in anything, so that I do not make a mistake, but learn from those lessons. Get a good group of people around you. Talk to your parents as well. Parents will always I think advise in the best way they can, and if they can't, they'll lead you to someone who can. That's what I think.
Okay. And I guess as we sort of wrap up, have you made more money from rugby or out of rugby?
I would say at this point, I would say I've made more outside rugby. However, I think while playing, there was a period in time, like I said, when things seemed like they were very good for the playing unit, because the sponsorship, that word sometimes it just creeps on me, man.
Yeah.
It was quite good. But and then we made some lump sum kind of
with the bonuses. Yeah.
So that at that period things seemed like, wow, very good. But when you now start investing in things and your money starts disappearing again,
yeah.
But luckily you make those investments.
Yeah.
I know I've also done some good investments with my family, and built some projects here and there, and so it hasn't gone to waste.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe sort of to probe you a little into the future, and you have a son or a daughter, and living in Kenya, and they said that they want to pursue a career as a professional rugby player. What would your response be? And this is strictly financially speaking, like in terms of them being able to have a career where they're able to meet their needs, able to live a good life, basically things that we talked about.
Would I encourage them to pursue in Kenya?
Yes.
No, I'd make sure my son is playing at a very high level. He can only be accepted outside Kenya and for a top team.
Yeah.
I would really try and push my son or daughter to, and because I'm really into sports.
Yeah.
Yes, I would definitely get them to reach their highest potential in sports.
Yeah.
And try and get them into an opportunity outside the country.
Yeah.
However, I would definitely not mind my child, representing the country.
Yeah.
Because I did it, and I think for me it's still one of my biggest honors. I really loved my time there, and like I said, when I was a kid, dreaming about playing for the national team, that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was just wear that flag on my chest and on my back, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. That's all I wanted to do. So, so I wouldn't tell the kid, no, don't really put this aside. But if they can get an opportunity out there and still come and play for the national team,
that would be the ideal situation.
That would be the ideal thing. Yeah.
Okay, and maybe I guess the last question is more reflective. When you look at unless
obviously things change.
Unless
things definitely change here for the better.
Yeah.
Then why not?
If things change here financially and people and they're better structures.
And I think we're headed that way.
Yeah.
I think we're headed that way. Maybe slowly, but yes.
But so basically, if things don't change, then life is quite tough, or life can be quite hard.
Life can be tough
as a professional rugby player in Kenya, especially if you don't have that second buffer, a second job. Yeah.
Second job, or if you've not planned yourself well and you don't have a plan B, things can get tough.
Okay, and this is more sort of reflective. When you look at your cohort, and by this I mean people who you are probably in St. Mary's with or at Daystar with, and now they've been in their careers 10 15 years easily, right? Because if you're finishing at 18, between 12 to 15 years into your career. So when you look at the cohort of the people who sort of either finished high school with or university with, and the careers that they've been in and the things they've been able to do, do you still think that it's worth it, and the journey that you took to be a professional rugby player, as opposed to, for example, getting into a law firm or becoming a doctor, and now you're 15 years into the practice, and the money that they are making now vis-a-vis the money that you made now and where you are at with your new career? Do you still think that it was worth it?
I still think it was worth it.
Yeah,
definitely. I've seen many many of that cohort also still trying to get by as well, you know, even generally around friends of friends, you know, mutual friends. I think everyone has their own time, and but everyone needs to also try and, you know, align themselves well. Things don't just happen like that. You have to try and make it happen. You know, you can't just wait for it to happen. You have to make it happen. Like MJ said, Michael Jordan. But for me, like I said, I do not regret. I would do it again.
Would you do it the same way?
Maybe a few decisions here and there I would have changed. But like I said, it hasn't gone badly for me. And I'm happy I picked up the lessons as I went along. Maybe it could have been better. Maybe if I did something else and never played the sport. But I wanted to play the game. The game also taught me so much more that school or life just hanging about or doing my own thing would not have taught me. I think being in a unit, in a team setup is very important. There's some lessons you learn there that you cannot get outside there. You learn resilience, you learn how to work together as a group. Kindness, giving back, you know, those are the kind of things I've taken forward as well, and those ones you cannot buy in a shop. You just you get them along the way.
Okay. I think that's that for us as our first episode. I hope that you've been able to pick up something from Biko's journey and Biko's understanding, and I hope that you've been able to understand a little bit more of what it takes to be a professional athlete in this country, and the possible opportunities that there are for you out there. And that's it for our first episode on Financially Incorrect.
Cheers.